Conterversy. Hey, what is up everyone, I'm Noriso, aka Aethel Wolf, and welcome to my Persona 3 review analysis video. I'm assuming that most of you by now know what Persona is about. Partially a dating sim, partially a life simulator, but mostly a JRPG with Pokemon-like mechanics and a bunch of hormone-filled teenagers. I think it'd be really hard for you to be a gamer in 2023 who has not heard of Persona 5. It's massive, its main protagonist made it into frickin' Smash Bros. I think that's when you know you made it. And that is why I'm talking about Persona 3. Why? Because Persona, some would say, and I agree, that Persona 3 is really what started it all. We wouldn't have Persona 5 without Persona 1 and 2, I guess, but Persona 3 is really when the whole dating aspect, life simulation, social links, and all that stuff really got introduced so that Persona 5 can be as great as it is today. I have this problem. This problem started way back in 2018. That was when I made this specific conscious choice of not playing God of War 2018 because I said, I'm a fan of the Kingdom Hearts series. I like the Final Fantasy games. There's a couple of franchises where, thanks to me playing all the older games in the franchise, I can appreciate the newer ones so much more. I love knowing all the little innuendos and all the little flashbacks to older games and just being able to see the games evolve throughout the times. It makes you appreciate the newer games just so much more. It's so poetic. It's so beautiful. It is 2023, April of 2023. And I have still not played God of War 2018 because I said to myself, I'm gonna play all the other God of Wars before I play that one just so I can really appreciate it. And here I am, 5 years later, and I still haven't gotten around to it. At least I only have God of War Ascension and God of War 3 before I can play God of War 2018, so I'm getting there. But Persona 5 has suffered the same fate. I heard there's this beautiful game, but there's that 5. That magical, dirty little 5 that tells me that there's 4 games before it that I have this weird itch saying I should play these games first to appreciate 5 for everything that it is. And while Persona 1 and 2 did not satiate that thirst that I have for this franchise that I've heard so many great things about, I am extremely happy to say Persona 3 freaking slaps, bro. I absolutely love this game, and this is why it's worth it. This is why, although with games like God of War, it's taking me so many years, I know when I play God of War 2018, I'm going to appreciate so much more. Not just that, all the other games I would have missed out on if I played God of War, the newest one, and then I go back to literally God of War 1, I'm gonna be like, it's just not the same. So I'm doing the same exact thing with the Persona series, and freaking may I add, it's been so worth it. So let's just rip the band-aid off. Should you play this game in 2023? Does it hold up? There's some games that they say age very poorly. Final Fantasy VII is one of them. They're like, oh, great story, great this, great that, but if you try and play it nowadays, not the remake, it doesn't hold up. It's not that good of a game. While I may disagree in many of those aspects, I can understand what they're saying. There's some games that have this timeless, ageless essence to them that no matter when you play them, they will feel timeless. Persona 3 is one of those games. Similar to the older Pokemon games or the older Final Fantasy games, they have this style that's really never gonna go old.
I mean, think about it. To this day, we still have Square Enix releasing games like Octopath Traveler that are completely made in this retro 8-bit kind of style. Of course, Octopath Traveler has this 3D cool looking art style, but the fact that they chose to still keep it pixelated says something about that art style. All I'm saying is you probably wouldn't see a game like Final Fantasy VII with that kind of look with all the freaking polygons coming out in 2023, just because again, you look at Final Fantasy VII, you see all the polygons and you're like, oof. You can always come back to the older Pokemon games and still just really appreciate the pixel art.
The only difference here is, rather than it being pixelated art, you have this beautiful hand-drawn art. All the character portraits look absolutely amazing, and not just that, there is voice acting in this game. And while some voice actors and some voice lines can be kind of cringy, overall the voice acting in this game is amazing. Yes, when you're actually doing the battles, depending on whether or not you're playing the PS2 version, which there's 2 different versions to that, which are very controversial, which I'll talk about later in the video, or you're playing the remake on the Switch, the PS4, PS5, whatever the heck, I think that Persona 3 Portable, which is the game that I played, and really the game that I'm reviewing, is considered timeless. And whether you're playing on the PS2 or on the PS4 or Xbox or Switch, you can have a fantastic time with this game and just really appreciate where the Persona series really started. So without further ado, here are my thoughts on Persona 3 as a whole. So as I talked about a little bit earlier in this video, this is my first Persona game. I'd always really struggled with the Persona. I tried playing Persona 4 once. I got the Persona 4 Golden for the Switch for the PS Vita, and it was really good. While I did enjoy myself with the game, I found myself getting sometimes a little bit tired of there being so much dialogue. Mind you, this was about 7 years ago. Another thing that I found that I really struggled with was just the combat and the battle. I don't know why I really struggled. And this is, I've played RPGs. I'm not like new to RPGs, but man, oh man, did I find the Persona 4 specifically really grindy, really hard to level up. And since I had started the playthrough on normal, and it took me so long to get up to, I think I maybe got halfway-ish through the game about. I didn't really have the heart mean to start a game again in easy mode. I kind of got stuck with Persona 4 just because the battle was too hard and I didn't want to keep grinding to try and eventually beat it. So that really kind of turned me off to the series for a little bit. But again, I knew it was a beautiful franchise and I just needed to understand what I was getting into, and hopefully this video will help you with that. This time when going into Persona 3, I knew that it was going to be very dialogue heavy, and I knew that unlike other RPGs, the point of this game is to get into the story, get into the social links, really have fun exploring what this world is meant to be. Because if you go into it purely for the gameplay aspect, the fighting and the RPG mechanic, yeah, there's a good amount of dungeon crawling, and yeah, the Pokemon type like aspect is extremely fun. I don't know if just liking that aspect is enough to get you really into this game and appreciate its beauty. I truly do think that half of the game is purely just dialogue and story, and half of the other game is that whole part, the whole gameplay part. Since it's 50-50, if you're not into one of those sides, this is gonna be a mediocre game at best. But if you like both the story and you can get into the whole social links and building those relationships with your peers and students, and you are into the whole dungeon crawling, getting weapons, seeing stats go up, and catching little or not little, I guess, different kinds of weird, cool, freaky, awesome, cute monsters, you have yourself the recipe for a perfect game. So let's talk a little bit about the story first. So going into Persona 3, knowing what it was going to be about, knowing it's going to be very dialogue, story heavy driven, and there's also going to be a very grindy mechanic to it where I'm going to have to do a lot of battles and really just learn the whole system. I truly do think going into it with that mentality really helped me enjoy this game so much more. So the story. The story slaps. The story slaps. If you're into anime, welcome to Anime the Game. I want to compare this game to Naruto in a way, and I know that's such a strange comparison, but it's not quite in the way that you think. Naruto is such a long series, kind of like Long Piece or Bleach, right? One of the big three. Because of how long those series are, it is almost impossible to not fall in love with the characters and feel like you know each one of them so well. You learn to love their dialogue. You learn to love that the way that they act, the way that they talk. It is so hard to not fall in love with these characters when you're spending so much time with them, right? And that's what I mean by it's similar to Naruto. It's so hard not to love the Naruto story because the Naruto story slaps, but because it's so long and the characters are so lovable, you spend so much time with them, with all these different characters, it's hard not to like them. It's the same thing with Persona 3. This is a really long game. And especially if you're taking the time to try to connect with all these different social links and really take the time to say, oh look, my relationship leveled up with this character, this is so cool. And you're really just taking these mental notes and seeing how, oh, this character is different from that character, and who does this character represent in my life, and who are they kind of like, have I met someone like this before? And that's the beauty of this game. In Persona 3, you're gonna meet a lot of these different students that you're gonna say, I've met someone exactly like that. And because it's a long game, you're going to end up liking a lot of these characters, especially if you pull through and commit. Because it's a long game, I do think that there might be certain parts where you might want to take a little bit of a break from it and come back to it later. That's completely fine. I do not think that Persona 3 is necessarily a game to binge and sit down and play for 3 days straight for 30 hours, because a lot of it can be really grindy and a lot of it can be really repetitive. This game ultimately took me about a month to a month and a half to complete, or to beat. And I think that's the best way to do it. I would play it between 2 to 3 hour chunks if I was really into the game. For a particular day, I'd play for 6 hours, but no more than that. 2 to 3 hours a day for a little bit here, a little bit there. Taking breaks sometimes with other games in between. That's the way to experience this game. And it's just kind of like, I'm gonna revisit this world for a little bit, see how the characters are doing, continue with the game, progress a little bit more, take another break and come back to it. Because it is a really big game, and it can be really repetitive. I'm not gonna take that away. But with the right mindset and kind of sparsing it out here and there, it can lead to a really magical experience where you get enthralled into this world where you just want to keep knowing more and learning more and spending more time with these characters. The story is awesome. What about the gameplay? That was probably one of the biggest draws for me, the gameplay. I love the idea of having another turn-based RPG similar to Final Fantasy X, but with Pokemon mechanics. I love Pokemon. While I might not be capturing personas, I am gaining different personas and I can customize my party, and there are their differences. It's not exactly like Pokemon, but in some ways it's even cooler because I can have a way bigger team, and I can in some ways it's better because really you can almost take any persona that you want or have and you can just keep teaching them newer, stronger moves, and as long as their stats, if they're like a strength-based persona or a magic-based persona, you can boost their stats in different ways throughout the game and really just focus on using them so that you carry that very first persona with you to the end of the game and be a force to be reckoned with. That's beautiful, and that's something that's different from Pokemon. How is it different? Because in Persona 3, on top of the moves that the persona learns, other personas unlock moves at a certain level so that you can teach that move to any persona that you have. Then I take that spell card, use it on that persona who I've had from the very beginning, which even though they're not learning any new more moves, I can still teach them the new moves through those other cards. In Pokemon, I mean, yeah, you do have like the TM system. You can teach certain moves to certain Pokemon. The cool thing here is you can teach any move to any persona with no limits. I could have a fire type persona and give him one of each different typing of the move that I want. It can be physical, it can be magical, it can be whatever, and then I just have to kind of pay attention to the stats and make sure that either it has good natural stats for magic or attack or whatever, and just kind of play with it as I see fit. The social links are a huge part of this game. Obviously, it's like, I think 50% of the game is story and social links, and the other 50% is grinding and dungeon crawling. The social links is what you have to get into and like other than the story to make Persona 3 worth your time. If you're not into the social links and trying to get attached to these characters where, you know, you're following their story and you feel like you're getting to know them, if you're not enjoying the social links, you're gonna find it hard to really like this game. And I will say this, it's got some pretty great social links. There are some that hit a little bit harder. Some that stand out for me was the little girl persona link. I know it sounds kind of weird, but there's like an elementary little girl who you kind of help and become like, not a father figure, but you're just kind of like a bigger brother to her. Although it gets kind of weird when she gets mad at you because she wants you to promise her that you're gonna marry her. Anyways, I didn't even talk about the whole thing with the female protagonist being able to start a relationship with Ken, who's the middle schooler. But I'm not really gonna touch that because I did not play that game, so that version of this game. So another one which was really good, which I think was almost overhyped, but not really, was really good, was the social link with, let's just say, the student who's sick. I thought that was great. You know, kind of a depressing person, but I thought that was a really impactful social link. The social links are great, particularly the ones with the main characters were the ones that I was the most excited for. It was a shame that I wasn't able to finish Mitsuru's, but I loved, you know, I like that in the remake, at least in the remaster, you don't have to worry about maxing out all the social links with all these different girls at the same time. Because in the original Persona game, if you talk to these different girls at the same time, other girls get mad at you. If you're like in a relationship with one of them and you're talking to another one, she'll get upset that you're spending time with another girl. It was a whole thing, and I'm really glad that they don't have that in this game, because that was great because I got to experience the full story. One last little thing to add here, I think it was pretty cool getting to play Persona 3 right now during this moment in my life, because I just moved to a different state and everything is new for me and everything is different and kind of weird, and I'm in an interesting place in my life where I'm in this new place where I don't really know anyone, and I'm getting to meet these new people and build these new relationships. And it was hilarious to me that as I was playing this game and building up my social links in the game, in real life, whenever I met a new friend or met this new person, I would just have like that whole thing in my head where it's like, it's like you've just created a new social link, and I was picturing myself leveling up that social link, and it's hilarious. But yeah, I think that just kind of speaks to, I mean, again, why I like this game so much and how like it can be if you let yourself go there, you can really see how this game is really just real, right? It's like real life, and I love that. I will say this, something that turned me off from Persona 4 was how grindy it felt and how slow it felt like I was progressing and leveling up. That is still here, present in Persona 3, but that's why I give so much props to the Persona 3 Portable Remaster. One of the only things that they really added to this new Persona Remaster that just came out in 2023 was the difficulty. You can customize your difficulty in the sense that the fighting is really easy, or you gain more experience, or you gain a lot of experience but the fighting is really hard. I absolutely love the difficulty customization with the remaster, and I do think that played a huge role for me personally, which again, I don't know why. I was struggling so much with Persona 4, and I found myself struggling in the same way with Persona 3 at first. But then after changing around some of the difficulty settings and setting it so that I would gain a lot more experience, that helped me so much when it came to progressing through the game and not just stopping because I'm stuck in a hard fight. There's also other ways to make the game easier so that if you're about to lose, you just hit retry and all your characters get revived. While that might seem like it kind of breaks the game, you don't have to turn that feature on, you don't have to use it. But it was nice, I had it on, I used it a couple times just because I was so enthralled in everything else with the game that, hey, what was really going to happen is if I don't hit retry, I'm going to have to go back and either grind some more, come back to the fight, or I'm going to come back to the same boss. They're going to have full health, I'm going to give it another go, and then I'm probably going to kill it without having him done any other grinding in between. Having that customization was awesome, and that is something that only the remake for the remaster for 2023 offers. Persona 3 has a great payoff. It is a really long game, and it can and probably will get repetitive, maybe. Hence why, once again, I cannot stress this enough, maybe it'll be good for you if you try this game out to play it in chunks. Don't sit and be expecting to play this for, 12-hour gaming sessions and not feeling like it's a lot of the same. You want to know one of my favorite things about Persona? I know some people might not care about this, but I love it, is all of the spin-offs that come with this game. All the extra things and all the different ways in which I can delve into this universe, and specifically Persona 3's world, if I choose that I want to. Which I will say, after playing this game, it was hard for me to leave, and I kind of wanted to spend more time with these characters. I spent like more than 60 hours with them. And while I was ready to change up a game and I didn't want to start Persona 4, I also didn't really want to start a new game playing as a female character, which I've heard it is a little bit of a different experience.
Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about this. So in this game you can choose between playing as a male character or a female character. Depending on the gender that you choose, it's going to affect the story in different ways. Mostly when it comes to the social links that you have, which is, the characters that you're talking to throughout the whole game, and a different way to build up your personas of strength, along with some other key differences, which I'll get into in a little bit. But all you really need to know is that the male protagonist was the original protagonist in the way that the game was meant to be played, and the female protagonist was added on later once Persona 3 Portable got created, which I'll also talk about later.
All new tracks, different ways to, I guess, save certain people in this game, but ultimately they're still the same game. And because I had spent so much time in this world, I didn't want to just turn right around and start a new game. But I still wanted more Persona 3 specifically. Again, since I played the remaster for Persona 3 Portable, I missed out on all of the beautiful cutscenes. These are what the cutscenes looked like that we missed out on that were in the original PS2 game. After I beat the game, I went through and watched all the cutscenes that I missed out on. And I truly do think if I would have been able to see these cutscenes as I was going through the game, again, it's not like there's a lot. There's maybe 30 minutes worth of cutscenes, but just having those sprinkled in throughout the game, especially at the end, oh my goodness. It just would have been such a nice little touch, little cherry on top that would have made me just so much more immersed into the world and help me just, again, get to see these characters that I like so much, not just as portraits, but actually moving and seeing them alive, interacting with each other. Do I think not having this cutscene broke the game for me? No. Especially as a first-time newcomer, no. I still really enjoyed the game. I just remember being salty after I finished the game, being like, I wish I could have experienced these cutscenes as I was going through the game. But anyways, before I get too sidetracked, to finish the point that I was trying to make about me wanting to be in this Persona universe some more. There's so many spin-offs with Persona 3, there's so many more things you can do. You have Persona Q, which is a mix of Persona 3 characters and Persona 4 characters. I freaking love crossovers. You have the Persona 3 dancing game. You have the Persona 3 manga if you feel like reading. And you have the Persona 3 movies, which is basically just watching the anime. I enjoyed Persona 3 so much that yes, I actually got the Persona 3 dancing game. And I was like, okay, this is either gonna be great because I'm gonna be able to make fun of it, or B, this game's gonna low-key slap because I'm really into rhythm games and I love the music in Persona 3. Like, let's just talk about that for a little bit. I have no idea how Persona 4 and Persona 5 are gonna be able to top the freaking bangers in Persona 3. And I've heard some great Persona 5 music, but I'm just saying. I was thinking I might make a video on the Persona 3 dancing games, but probably not, just because they're really simple. There's not much more to them. They're a rhythm game with your Persona 3 characters. And I personally absolutely love this game. Seeing some characters like Akihiko, Shinji, and the main protagonist dancing in this game has just the right amount of ridiculousness to make it funny while also having a little bit of cool pizzazz. What I mean is these characters, they be getting it, bro. They know how to dance. And while some of the dances are really funny, I have to admit, combined with this music that I love so much, seeing a character that I became attached to, watching them bust these moves, bro, I was like, yo, they're getting it. They're getting it. And it worked really well. So if you love the music in Persona 3, you like rhythm games, give Persona 3 dancing a shot. It is an extremely lighthearted game from the first couple hours that I've played, but it keeps you in that Persona 3 universe, and getting to see these Persona 3 characters in their new HD models was really cool, actually. Playing Persona 3 dancing and watching these cutscenes play out with these characters and their 3D models was so amazing. I will add this, I think they did a good job at keeping some of the same voice actors that they did for Persona 3, and if they're not the same, my goodness, did they do a great job of replicating the original Persona 3 characters. But there are some that changed a little bit. For example, Fukka in Persona 3, she's very timid and she's very chill. She's not really peppy. She's, again, very shy, very chill, not really peppy. In Persona 3 dancing, however, they made her very cute, very ulu, and with a lot of peppiness, a lot of cheeriness. She actually claims and, you know, becomes the president of the cheerleading fan club for the Persona dancers. Threw me off for a little bit. It's not the same Fukka that I know from Persona 3, but I'll still let it pass because getting to see her 3D model is awesome. All the other characters, though, again, they did a great job with Persona 3 dancing. 10 out of 10 would recommend. What about the movies? I actually started watching the Persona 3 anime movies. There's 4 of them. Unfortunately, they are all, or fortunately, there's no dub version of these movies, so you can't watch them in English, you have to watch them subbed. And as someone who played the games in English, I wish I could have seen these movies with the original American voice actors. That would have been nice for me. But I love seeing these movies. The animations are absolutely beautiful. It was so great, once again, getting to see these characters come to life. I've been so used to just, you know, hearing the voice acting, watching the different portraits, but it's a completely different thing when you actually see them moving around. And again, just in general, the animations for those movies are amazing. There's 4 movies total. They're all free to watch on YouTube as of right now. If you don't want to watch them on YouTube, I think you can get them on Amazon Prime and you can like pay to rent it or buy it. Also, massive shout out to this channel right here. They managed to voice act the entire first Persona movie, which is almost about 2 hours, in English. They dubbed the entire thing, and not just that, the dub low-key slaps. We've all seen our fair share of ridiculous anime dubs. And while I'm not gonna say that this dub movie is perfect, it is extremely professionally well done. And for a project that was made, I think they originally posted on Facebook and now it's on YouTube, which I'm sure took them years to create. Think about this, it is a fan-made project? Holy crap, did they do a great job. Really, the only voice actress that I found to be pretty different was Yukari. Everyone else did a fantastic job. Mitsuru, it is scary how similar she sounds. It is awesome. Yuki Makoto, getting to see the protagonist actually have a voice in top. In this fan-made dub, I think they killed it with a voice actor. I think this is exactly what he probably would have sounded like. But still, once again, huge props to this channel right here. They did absolutely amazing. I'm gonna try and leave the link down in the description. It was just so nice how after I finished this game, I wanted more and I had the opportunity to have more. I also already ordered some of the mangas. I don't imagine that the manga will be that much more different from the anime and the game. And I don't feel like there's much for me to talk about there, at least as of now, because from what I've seen online, it's pretty much just beat video game put into manga style. If it is that much different or I do have a lot more to say, I'll probably make a separate video. But again, I just loved having that option.
Okay, so I actually do want to talk about the manga just a little bit more. First of all, I want to highlight how absolutely gorgeous these books look. The art, the quality, the color, like, you know, even just, I mean, on the outside, right? There's no color on the inside, but these look so amazing. And as a real Persona 3 fan, like, being able to have these is such a nice treat. Now, I know I just said, oh, from what I've heard, the manga is pretty much the same thing. It's the same story that happens in the game. Well, now that I've kind of been flipping through some of these pages, because I just got them today actually, it looks like they do change up the story a little bit, or at least they change up the pacing, or they change some things in the story. For example, one of the characters that appears in the second book out of all the 12 or 13 books, is a character that doesn't appear until closer to the end of the game in the video game. And here, they're already in the second book. So I'm interested to see how that's all going to play out. Another cool thing is that the author and the artist sometimes have random notes. Like right here, you know, just like random thoughts when they were doodling, you know, making this art. So that's kind of cool. I do think that the anime, the manga adds some value, and as a real Persona fan, you're probably going to get some enjoyment out of this. But anyways, these are just my initial thoughts and overviews. Seeing as how the manga is different from the main story, I might end up making another video where I do talk about all the differences, if there's many, between the books and the game. But anyways, just wanted to highlight this a little bit more because I know obviously because of the title and thumbnail, I said I was going to talk about the manga a little bit more, so here's that for you.
So why was this Persona 3 remaster so controversial? Again, I'm just gonna give you the speedy, quick version, because I've seen a lot of videos kind of explaining it, and I didn't really let myself get too invested into it, because really this was my first time experiencing it, so I don't really have too much to complain about not having the other games, because I never really experienced them. I guess there's 3 different versions of this game to play. Well, now 4 with the remaster. But you have the original Persona 3, then you have Persona 3 Fez, which comes with a little bit of extra content called The Answer, which we'll talk about later. Then you have Persona 3 Portable, which came out for the PS Vita, which came out for the PSP, sorry, or Vita, one of those. And then lastly, we have this version right here. Why did they choose to remaster Persona 3 Portable instead of Persona 3 Fez or the original? Here are the main differences that you're gonna find. In Persona 3 Fez, it plays very similarly to the Persona 4 when you're in the overworld. You get to run around with the character, you get to see them do different animations and when they're talking to other characters, which I think is extremely cool, along with a lot of other people. They think that it adds a lot more to the experience, and I agree. As well as, you get the cutscenes in this game, making it the more original, legit way to experience Persona 3. The huge downside to this game is you don't get to control your party members. In Persona 3 Fez, you really just have control of the main protagonist, and all your other party members just kind of do whatever the heck they want. And while I've heard that the AI is relatively competent, there's times when you're doing certain boss fights and that they make some of the silliest decisions, which can lead to you losing in some really bogus ways because the AI chose to do something dumb. Nobody likes that. Nobody likes not being able to have that control and just letting a computer make dumb decisions, because especially in a game like Persona 3, a game that is not forgiving when you lose, if you do happen to die in a boss fight, you are reverted to your last save. Persona 3 Portable, you can control your party members. That is huge, that is massive. But what you don't get is getting to see those 3D models of those characters interacting with each other throughout all these cutscenes, which you might not think could be that impactful. And again, as someone who didn't experience that version, when I did look up YouTube videos, getting to see how those cutscenes played out when you got to see the 3D models, rather than just their portraits having different expressions, I think having those 3D models plus the portraits just adds so much more to the game. So there's that. Instead of being able to control the main protagonist and watch them run around, you get this kind of like point and click adventure thing where you're just kind of hovering over characters that you want to talk to with like a cursor. And while I didn't mind this too much, instead of having to run everywhere, I could just kind of press square and fast travel to wherever I wanted to just keep progressing through the days and getting to those social links that I had to get to. I can 100% see how a lot of people could consider this a huge downgrade. But again, I personally don't mind it. So if there's anything they can do for me to help streamline the process and help me get through those days faster, I'm all for it. Another huge thing that Persona 3 Portable gets is the choice to choose a female character protagonist. Never been done in any other Persona game before. This does alter the story just a little bit, but enough I think to make it worthy of a playthrough at some point.
Along with giving you a lot of different social links that you didn't get to experience with the guy. And that's something that I kind of forgot to talk about, which I'll throw in here. Some of my favorite social links was getting to talk to the main characters. A lot of the female characters you end up starting relationships with, but since it's also some of the characters that you spent the most time with in the game, it was cool getting to have max out their social links and get to know them even more, just because you were already spending so much time with them. I was pretty bummed that I couldn't become best friends with Akihiko and Junpei and the rest of the guys in the gang. But anyways, my point here is if you play through the females path in this game, you get to have those social links with the guys. You get to know them a little bit more, and you get to go through maxing out their social links and getting to know more about them. And it sucks that I couldn't just become best bros with these guys. A lot of the social links change up depending on the gender that you choose. There are some that are exclusive to the female, and there's some that are exclusive to the male protagonist. This is something that adds a lot of value to the Persona 3 Portable experience.
I tried to make that explanation quick, but that pretty much covers the controversial part of this remaster. Why they choose to remaster Persona 3 Portable instead of Persona 3 Fez? I would say probably because of the gameplay thing and being able to have a female protagonist. Those are the two biggest things that I think they were like, yeah, no, let's not remake Persona 3 Fez, as well as the answer, which is additional content that comes with Persona 3 Fez. It's basically a small continuation of the story after you beat Persona 3. A lot of people didn't like that. We'll talk about that again a little bit later in the spoiler section, but for now, just know, I think people were like, let's just kind of forget that the answer exists, and we're just gonna go with how Persona 3 originally ended. That is just kind of like the only ending, and we're not gonna talk about the answer. What do the fans want? What would have been the best way to go about this? Have Persona 3, call it something else, Persona 3 The Ultimate Experience or something. Keep the animated cutscenes with the male protagonist. Keep all the 3D animations for Persona 3 Fez. Let us control our party members. And still include the answer, because at the end of the day, you don't have to play the answer if you don't want to, because it's post-game content. I hear that a big reason why they also chose to not include the animated cutscenes in Persona 3 Portable would have been a really easy thing to do. They chose not to include them because they didn't have female versions of these cutscenes, so it would have been unfair. So that's why so many people are so mad with this remake, because there really could have been a couple of fixes to give us the ultimate version of Persona 3. And if there was any Persona remaster / remake that needed this fix that was so jumbled with all these different versions, this one needed it the most. And while we got Persona 4 Golden, which was that, and then we had Persona 5 Royale, which was that, we just got Persona 3 Portable, a version of this of Persona 3, which we already talked about it's not perfect. So again, I understand it. Now you have the context. Now you're filled in. I just want to let you know, as someone who has never played Persona 3, it didn't affect me. Not really. It did not affect me absolutely loving this Persona 3 universe and my first Persona 3 experience. Wow, wee woo. This has been, and it's going to continue to be, a long video, but that's okay, because I really enjoy this game and I have a lot to talk about, and I spend a lot of time in this world too. So that is gonna do it for my initial review of this game. I've tried to keep everything up until this point spoiler free, as spoiler free as possible. So at this point, if you haven't played Persona 3 and you want to play Persona 3, this is probably a good place to start. Thank you so much for watching the video. Don't forget to leave a like, comment down below whether or not you're interested in playing this game. And for all of you who already played Persona 3, yo, hey, what's up? I just beat Persona 3, and I have a lot of things that I want to talk about that happened in this game because I loved it. So welcome to the spoiler section. Okay, so now that all the goons who haven't played this game are out of here, dude, Persona 3 slapped so hard. I can see why so many people like this game, and I can see how the story and thematically, I heard that this Persona 3 is like one of the darkest ones, right? And it actually stays dark. It keeps like that darker tone throughout the whole game, and I felt that. I don't know, again, I haven't played Persona 4 or 5, and I hear that changes in the future, but I enjoyed this experience, and I liked how serious it was while also having its little glimpses of quirkiness and silliness. I want to talk about the characters a little bit. Let's just start off with Junpei. I'm gonna be honest, when I first saw Junpei, I did not know that he was gonna be a main character, and I know that even sounds offensive to me now that I've played through the game. It's like, I thought he was just gonna be a regular social link. I don't know what it was about just kind of seeing him with the cap and the goatee. I don't know why. I did not think he was main character worthy. That sounds horrible because I love Junpei, but I'm just telling you my initial impression. But after about the first hour or two of getting to see him and getting to know Junpei, I was like, this dude's dope. And I see why he's a main character, and I see the role that he's filling here, and I love it. Because when it comes to cocky, annoying, funny, best friend side characters in games, I think Junpei does great. Or Stupei, as some people like to call him. I loved it. I loved it. And dude, everything that goes down with him and Chidori was so amazing, man. It was just so cool to have this character that's so, you know, ridiculous and all about wanting to get with the ladies. And then he actually has this chance to be with a girl. And I saw it coming miles away. It wasn't supposed to work. It wasn't meant to work. And of course I kind of saw it coming that she was gonna betray him. But I also could have seen the other ending where she doesn't betray him and she ends up doing the right thing and kind of falling in love with him and they go down that route. I love that we got both, where like she did do Junpei dirty, but then post doing him dirty was like, nah, I actually love this guy. And it was just so cool to see. I think that's when I got to see Junpei grow the most as a character. Getting to see that growth was amazing. He spent the whole game just kind of being jealous of the main protagonist, and finally letting him have his moment with this girl that he liked was cool. I was happy for him. And finally he gets this girl and he's happy because she wants to see him and I'm like, okay, he's getting this thing. Bro, when I was told that this game was dark, like, I should have seen it coming. I should have seen Chidori dying, but I did not. Especially because at that point, that was the second death. So after the first death, I was like, okay, there's the death. There's the Aerith. You done pulled an Aerith on me. But man, was I not expecting that Chidori death. And I felt for my boy Junpei. I felt for my boy Junpei. Amazing. I loved that part to the story. Like, the Chidori Junpei story was amazing. Little bit of controversial part here. I heard that there's a way to actually revive Chidori. I personally didn't do it. I didn't know it was a thing. It was a blind playthrough for me. I didn't look that up. A lot of people are upset that this is a thing that you can do. And I can understand the upsetness. I think that they 100% just should have left Chidori dead, especially because I saw the cutscene where they kind of bring her back to life and she just kind of lost her memory. Doesn't really remember Junpei, but kind of does remember Junpei. Plus, technically, Chidori is dead, but it was, oh dude, the fusion of Chidori's persona with Junpei's persona was so freaking cool. And that's why I also can get and understand why, like, again, that moment was so impactful. Him losing Chidori, how he grew as a character and just really feeling that loss. And then just kind of like bringing her back at the end, you know, without even giving us that feel-good moment of like, oh yay, like now they get to be together and happy. It was like she's back, but she's not really back because she doesn't have memory. I don't know. Like I can understand it. It doesn't make me as upset as some other people, but I think that it's interesting. And when I heard that there was a version of the game where I could revive Chidori, I wanted to see that cutscene instantly. So. Must have been at least a little bit good, right? Let's talk about Yukari. Yukari's alright. Yukari's cool. She fills that role, I suppose. Probably not one of my top characters in this game, but I still appreciate her for what she is. And you know, if you feel the story with her dad, at least I did. Everybody considers her a massive B word, and I can see it, but I also see it as like, this is the role that she's fulfilling. And when it comes to being that one character in the game, she's not that bad. I liked it, you know? It's alright. I don't mind Yukari. I really love this game, so I like Yukari. Why not? Akihiko is so dope, bro. Like, Akihiko was so cool, and he just kept getting even cooler and cooler throughout the game. He always kept up this really cool persona. I love that he was a persona. I didn't even mean it that way. He always kept up this really cool, you know, aura, vibe, attitude. I loved Akihiko. I might even say that Akihiko was my... I want to place him, low-key make a tier list here. I want to place him above Junpei, but I also love Junpei. I just know Akihiko is so dope. Like, he played a different role than Junpei, and I loved it, dude. I loved it. And his whole story with Shinji and Shinjiro and how it connects to Ken, like, man, like, that was so cool. I remember, like, when they first started showing glimpses that there's something that went down between Akihiko and Shinji, and you're just kind of like waiting for it and waiting for it and waiting for it, and you finally find out what it is, and it connects to Ken and everything. You're just like, yo, that was great. That was another which I wasn't really expecting, and I thought added a lot to the story. And Shinji's death, bro. Shinji's death and Akihiko's transformation, you know, just that scene where he's just like crying and he's just like banging on the freaking thing and he's just freaking out because his best friend died, and having that moment of growth was so cool. Loved Akihiko. Mitsuru senpai. Mitsuru is freaking dope. I again, this is why I can't really like rank these characters, because at least the past, you know, all of them, except for Yukari, so far have just been A tiers for me. And since they fill different roles, I can't put them above each other because they're different roles. I think they're all just A. She's the smart girl, the intelligent girl, the professional girl, the tough girl, the mentor, you know, like, while also being the unachievable girl that is like super smart and older than you. And, you know, I just love the way that they put her into this game. And I think she is just so freaking cool, dude. Another top tier character. I loved her, and her story bits were great, you know. I think I didn't feel the loss of her father that much, just because it sounded like they had a really complicated relationship anyways. So when she lost her father and she was so distraught by it, I didn't really feel it, because it wasn't like with Yukari's father where like they had this amazing relationship and she really just loved him. It was still cool because it showed this other reality, which is again really just real life, which is they might not, like Mitsuru and her father might not have had the best relationship, but she still loved him. And again, that's really real. I just didn't feel it as much because I didn't like Mitsuru's father as much. Still, crucial part to the story, the way that she connects with the father, which connects with her grandfather, and how this whole thing got started. So amazing. Then we have Shinji and Ken. I'm gonna group these two together a little bit, so don't get mad at me. I thought Shinji was so cool, and I wish he would have been in there for longer. I was so upset when they killed him, because I was like, no, they just yeeted an Aerith on me. And I was even more salty because when I got Shinji on the team, he was a little bit over leveled, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna get my other characters caught up to Shinji's level and then use him on my team. By the time I got all my other characters caught up, that was the exact moment when he died. So I never had the chance to use him on my team. Man, oh man, dude. But yeah, no, that was another great impactful death, the way that they connect him with Ken, because I did kind of feel like both Shinji and Ken kind of just joined the group out of nowhere, and I just had a lot of questions, and I was like, why? What is the point of these two characters? Why are they just kind of joined for no reason? And then it all gets explained, and you're like, okay. I at first was kind of really like turned off by the idea of having a middle schooler be a part of my main party and be a Persona user. I just was like, this dude just doesn't really fit in with all these characters with deep, complex, dark backgrounds. Like, why do we just have this random, you know, nerdy kind of middle schooler here? And then you find out his background, and I'm like, all right, respect. He's earned his spot with this team. And I ended up like, you know, Ken was pretty cool too. In terms of middle schoolers, I guess he was pretty cool. Okay, then we have Koromaru, the dog. I'm hoping that maybe playing through this game as the female character, where you actually have a social link with Koromaru the dog, would help me like him more as a character. I still found it impressive that they found a way to make him, you know, one of your main party members and give him an important-ish story when you can't even talk to the dog because he just barks, but the dog yet still has his own little story without the social link. I was like, okay. I was just more so hype at the fact that there's a dog Persona user in this game. Like, that was enough for me to just like him and be like, this is so cool. You know, my brother was watching me play Persona with this dog on my team. He was like, yo, you have a dog? And I'm like, yeah, and he's his whole own character and he's a Persona user. And he was just like, what? And I'm like, I know, but that's why he's awesome. So even though he was a little bit lacking in the story department for me, like, I still liked him, loved him, liked him as a character. So, you know. We then have Aigis. Aigis. She is the mascot of Persona 3. It's fascinating when you think about it, how in Persona 4 you have a panda bear thing, and then in Persona 5 you have a cat, and in Persona 3 you have a robot. Aigis ended up becoming kind of like the mascot for this game. And I get it. While at first I was kind of really confused as to why she was so important to the story and what was so special about this robot trying to become human. I'm like, okay, this isn't anything new, you know, a robot becoming human. I'm like, this is cool that it's in here, but I also don't feel like it's that big of a deal, especially enough to make her a freaking such a big symbol for this game, right? But then you play the game and you do her social link. And you see her grow throughout the story from the moment that she joins, really just being a freaking robot, to slowly growing and developing emotions and becoming more human. And I thought it was well earned. I thought that when she was more human, I saw that growth and I felt it. And I was like, no, this is legit. This is cool. It made me appreciate Aigis so much more. I think doing her social link also really helped. But again, it just, the way her, oh my gosh, dude, how crucial she is to the story. Holy smokes. Let's touch on that a little bit, dude. The fact that they made Aigis, like, she plays that one huge part, and the fact that at the very end, she's the only one who retains her memories. So that gives her so much more importance, and once again even makes the fact that she is a robot so much more unique, because she got to remember everything, yet still feel the emotions that all the humans just kind of stopped feeling. The fact that she's the reason why the protagonist has Ryoji slash, what's the little kid version of him? Pharos, yeah, Pharos. Aigis is the whole reason why our protagonist has the death arcana inside him, and it's just so cool how they connected Aigis to the main character, and it just how she played such a huge role. And same thing with Pharos and Ryoji. I wish I would have seen it coming so much sooner that Ryoji was Pharos, bro. I wish I would have, but I didn't. And it was so cool when they had that reveal. And I found that out. I called it maybe an hour or two before they made that reveal. That I was like, yo, Ryoji is the kid. Ryoji is the kid. And then like an hour or two later, they showed it. I was like, ah, like, dude, it was just so cool. That was so cool. I loved Ryoji as a character too. You know, at first I was like, why do we have just another guy who's just interested in a bunch of girls? Like, okay, we already kind of had Junpei and Ken, who's the social link. So why Ryoji, you know? Maybe he's the main character. Maybe I'll get to use him as a party member. I don't know, man. But then aside from him being interested in women, it's just kind of like you find out how important of a character he is and how he's been inside you this whole time. And it's just mind-blowing stuff, dude. It was cool. It was really cool. The ending was amazing. I'm going to talk about Fukka for a little bit. I kind of forgot about her. I would almost say Yukari played a little bit more of an important role for me than Fukka. It's not that I didn't like Fukka, I just think she was too much of that stereotype of just like the quiet side character who's shy but there. Yeah, I like her design, but that's really all I can say. I didn't even get to use her. You know, it was interesting the way that they used her in the gameplay, with her not being really someone who you can control, but her just kind of being there and helping you with advice. But what's the point of really having her level up and showing me her stats if I'm not gonna be able to use her? Again, nothing against Fukka. It was bad I had to look up a list because I was like, I think I'm forgetting someone. But I just want to say I'm acknowledging Fukka, and I don't but yeah, like, holy smokes. Just to wrap up those all the main characters and the main story in a little bow, like, I loved it. I love the main story, and I will say this, talking about the ending a little bit of this game, I was definitely confused, and that made me upset because I was loving the game so much, and finally the night that I beat it, I was confused as to what happened. I was confused. You know, all the main characters lost their memories, and then you have the main protagonist who's supposed to be dead, but then he's not dead, and you're like, oh, I thought he was supposed to die, but I guess he didn't die. And then at the very end of the game, he's not. Oh, okay. I guess I also didn't talk about the fact that there's two endings. I played the ending, the best ending, the good ending, I guess. But I thought it was so strange that Makoto Yuki did not die, but he was supposed to die. And I was so confused as to why all of his friends are running up to the rooftop, and Aigis is just talking to him like he is going to die, and she is saying goodbye. I was just confused, because again, the way that the game portrayed it, it was just like, oh, you're suddenly getting sleepy. You're suddenly getting sleepy. And of course, in hindsight, it's like, okay, yeah, he's dying. I understand he's dying. A lot of people loved that it was so unclear, and I get that, right? That you don't really know whether or not Makoto actually died or if something else was going on. I didn't like it too much because I was just like, did he die? Did he not die? I hate that I have to look it up. But I was okay, and I was satisfied with the ending of him dying then and there. And it was cool that he survived up until the last moment to have that little victory with his friends where everybody remembered, but it wasn't quite a victory because he just died when all his friends showed up, and he still got to be happy because he got to kind of experience that, but nobody else was really happy because he died. Like, oh man, like that It was cool. It was a great ending. I just don't like that I was confused by it, but it was a great ending. It was a great ending. I loved this game. I loved the way that they ended it, and then you have the answer. I did not play the answer. I looked up what the answer was about. I didn't even watch all the cutscenes for the answer. I like that in the answer, you find out what happened to Yuki Makoto, the main protagonist. And I don't know if I like too much that technically, I think at the end, again, because I didn't play it, from what I understood though, is you kind of can bring him back to life. Like it's left up into interpretation that you can bring Yuki back to life, or he does come back to life, one of the two. Again, I think it kind of takes away from it a little bit, similar to with the thing that happened with Shidori. And I know I didn't talk about it too much, but Shinji, I guess there's a way to save him, which, just really quickly commenting on that part, it doesn't make me upset that you were able to save Shinji. I just feel like if you're gonna make it so you could save Shinji, you should have also just kind of let me use him as a main character in the game with him being saved. Because the fact that you can save him, but I guess he's just like in a coma for the rest of the game, I'm kind of like, so he's saved. I still don't really get to see him, I guess, until the end, kind of. But I don't know. Side tangent. But yeah, what I do like about the answer is that it is made very clear that the main character dies. And I like that, okay, yes, he did die then. I like that I know for sure, canonically, he died there. Again, it's cool, and I imagine it would be kind of cool just getting to see the aftermath of that and see his friends feel that pain, because you didn't get to experience that. You just get to see them, and you imagine that they're gonna be sad, but it would have been more impactful to watch them feel that pain. And I imagine you would get to see something like that by playing the answer. I also like that in the answer they include the first time that each of these main characters summon their persona. I feel like that would have been a great thing to be able to experience, and I didn't really watch the cutscenes to those. I just know that it's there, and I might look them up in the future, so that's pretty cool because it just adds more lore to the Persona 3 world. But I hear that the gameplay, you know, they kind of messed it up. It's just more repetitive grinding. I guess some of the characters that they added in the answer weren't really that great. For the most part, the fandom of Persona 3 also did not like just how the answer also, I guess, took a lot of these main characters, and all that growth that you'd seen them in the first game just kind of gets taken away here, and you get to see some of the worst versions of these characters, or weaker versions of them, after you'd seen all this growth in the entire journey in the first game. So I get all that. Again, I'm not too affected by it because I didn't really play the answer. Will I go out of my way to play the answer? Maybe someday. I think right now I'm okay with just knowing what it is that happens in the answer. I might just look up kind of like when each main character uses their persona for the first time. But other than that, I think I'm good. I think I also heard that the story continues in Persona 4 Arena, right? The fighting game. I think that's where the Persona 3 story continues. I could be wrong. So I'm interested to see what happens there, because then you get to see an older version of all these characters, which is awesome. But I don't think I'm going to go back and play the answer. I probably not. But wow, this was a great game. And wow, this was some great spoiler talk. Dude, when you max out Aigis' social link, and she has you touch her in her special robot place with your human oils, so that you're with her forever, that was actively one of the weirdest, funniest, best scenes in this game because of how ridiculous it was. And yet, there was a part of me that was trying to feel it because I'm like, bro, like, I get it, you're a robot, and this is how y'all about to, like, do it? But it was so strange reading, like, touch my special robot part with your oils. Like, oh my gosh, that's hilarious. I wish I would have been able to max out Mitsuru's because I was also really enjoying her social link, but man, this was just a great game. A great game. Wow. Alright, well I think that's actually going to do it for this video. I think I talked about all the important things that I wanted to talk about with Persona 3. I want to apologize that it's such a long video, but also not really, because I had a lot to say about this game. And it was a really long game, and I really liked it. It left a good and great, long-lasting impression on me. So why wouldn't I talk about it as much as I did? Hopefully y'all enjoyed the video. Again, if you've made it this far, holy smokes, please drop a like, subscribe if you haven't yet. Welcome to the Wolfpack. Talk to me down below about Persona 3. I mean, clearly you watched this video, you listened to this whole video, so let me know what you think about the game down below. And thanks for watching, everyone. I appreciate every single one of you. And yeah, I'm gonna try to make more videos, man. I'm trying to pump out these videos. Wow, awesome. Thank you everyone so much for watching. Thank you to Persona 3, and I'm excited to continue my Persona journey. I'm hoping Persona 4 and Persona 5 are just as great, if not better, than Persona 3. Thank y'all so much for watching. I love you, Wolfpack, and I will see you all next time. Peace!